Welcome to Tonia's Kitchen, where taste and nutrition go hand in hand. Here is Tonia King.
My guest today, Meathead. How are you, Meathead?
Hungry as always.
Today we're talking about your brand new book, The Meathead Method. Is this your first book?
No, it's actually, it's my second barbecue book, but I was once the wine critic for the Washington Post, and I wrote books about wine and beer and spirits.
Wow.
So, but I switched to solid food in the year 2000.
So barbecuing is a big thing. Of course, we're heading into that season now where lots of folks are going to be doing outdoor entertaining and getting pumped up for cooking out on the grill. And you've got a wealth of knowledge, and this book is just loaded with so many great tips, recipes, ideas. What would you recommend for people that might be beginners in starting to barbecue and grill?
Well, one of the things that I like to do, I have a strong interest in the sciences. So there is a good deal of science in here. You know, this is 2025. We're a very highly technical, advanced society. People don't want recipes that just say, shut up and do step one, then do step two. We want to know, why do we do step one? And what happens if we skip step two? And what happens if we switch brown sugar for white sugar? So there's a lot of explanation of what is heat, what is energy, what is fire, what is smoke, what is protein, what happens when fire hits protein. And so it's sort of the first half of the book is sort of the old teach a man to fish or give a man a fish. And we try to teach the concepts behind, I say outdoor cooking, but gee willikers, they apply to indoor cook. Who says gee willikers anymore?
You!
Where did that come from? Okay, audience, guess my age.
Oh, my goodness. You're only as old as you feel. Hopefully you feel young.
Good gracious.
Yeah. It sounds like it's a little bit of chemistry and physics combined, right?
Well, anytime you step foot in the kitchen, you're conducting a chemistry and physics experiment.
Yeah.
You're putting heat to protein and carbohydrates, and those are chemicals, and they change with heat, and how much heat and what kind of heat. So understanding those core concepts. And I've tried not to be too technical. I've tried to be I once taught at Cornell, and I had the classroom next to Carl Sagan. And I used to wander in there on breaks and listen to him. And his ability to transmit complex concepts to both the novice and the expert, it was a skill that I've tried to emulate. And I think there's something for everybody there. I mean, the world of barbecue and grilling is full of mythology, and that's because I learned to grill from my dad, and my dad learned to grill from his dad, and he learned from his dad. And notice that this string of teachers is all male. And that's quite common. I have maybe 150, 200 barbecue cookbooks around me here in the office. They all tell you for good flavoring smoke, get wood chips or wood chunks and soak them for an hour or two in water. Well, let's think about this for a minute. Wood doesn't absorb water. That's why they build boats out of wood. If you soak a wood chip or a wood chunk in a bowl of water overnight, not just an hour or two, overnight, it doesn't gain any weight, maybe 1 or 2%. And that's all on the surface where it's kind of fuzzy and there's cracks and pores, but it doesn't penetrate. And if you cut that wood open, it's bone dry in the center. So there's not much point in soaking wood in water. Now, if you do, and you throw that wood on your hot charcoal, you're going to see a lot of white stuff coming out. And people go, look at all that smoke. It's not smoke. It's steam. It's water evaporating. Water evaporates at 212 degrees. It converts to steam. But wood doesn't start to smoke until around 500 degrees. So you throw wet wood on a charcoal fire or a gas fire, and it takes maybe 15, 20 minutes or so to get rid of the water before the wood can heat up enough to start smoking. So you're not smoking, you're steaming, and you're also cooling your charcoal down. So there's no point in soaking wood in water. It just does no good.
So I'm curious, do you prefer a charcoal grill over a gas grill?
No, I use them both. There's another myth. The charcoal doesn't provide flavor, not if it's used properly. Charcoal is for heat, it's for energy. If you've ever lit a charcoal grill, you know that immediately there's a lot of smoke. And those are combustion gases and smoke and things that come from cold charcoal. As the charcoal becomes fully involved and it becomes burn, it starts to smolder really strong and hard. It gets a coat of white ash all over, but there's no smoke, no visible smoke. There is still invisible smoke, but it doesn't add a lot of flavor. If you want flavor, you use wood, hardwood, fruit wood. They have rich flavors when they smolder and burn, and especially when they burn more than when they smolder. So the idea is, and the top pit masters all know this, is charcoal is for heat, wood is for flavor. So you get your charcoal lit, wait until it's all covered with ash and you don't see any more smoke. Then you throw wood chunks on there and then you put the food on there. Now, gas, the big difference here is most gas grills don't produce as much energy as charcoal. Charcoal is jam-packed with energy, but gas grills just don't have the oomph that charcoal has. That is to say, most of them. Now, some of them nowadays have what they call sear burners, and they're designed to create more energy, more heat. Those are cool. If you're buying a gas grill, try to get one with a sear burner. If you've got one with a good sear burner or an infrared burner, I've got a gas grill with two infrared burners. Well, I'm meathead.
Yeah, of course you have to, but I never even heard of an
two,
infrared burner.
two infrared burners, and it puts out just as much heat as charcoal. And I'll cook a steak on both charcoal and gas, and you can't tell the difference because
Wow.
it's the energy, the heat that makes the difference. That's why charcoal is superior to gas in most cases. But if you've got a good infrared or a sear burner, you can come darn close or equal charcoal.
So do you also use the indirect grilling method compared to the
Oh,
direct?
rule number one for anybody listening out there, perhaps a young person just getting started in their first house, or you get a grill, you got to buy a grill big enough that you can set it up in two zones. And you've nailed it. It's a great leading question because you know the answer, obviously. Two zone cooking is the secret to good grilling. And two zone grilling means you have a hot side and a not hot side. You have the side that has all charcoal on it and another side that has no charcoal on it. On a gas grill, you have a side where you got the burners turned on and the other side where there are no burners turned on. And with the burners turned on, you've got infrared radiation. When you're cooking over charcoal, you have infrared radiation. That's really intense, concentrated energy, great for searing and for creating flavors with the Maillard reaction, which is a chemical reaction that happens under intense heat. On the other side, where there's no charcoal or no gas, the food sits there and it warms gently from convection airflow. So you have two different types of energy here. You have infrared energy and convection airflow, and they're vastly different. When you're cooking with convection airflow, it's much slower and more gentle. You don't even have to flip the meat. But on the other side with infrared, it's super intense. Now, there's one more type of energy under the hood of that grill, and that is conduction energy. And that's what happens when the food touches the hot metal, the grill grates. And that's why you get grill marks, because it brands the meat. That's really concentrated, high energy. And here's an experiment you can do to see the difference. go into your kitchen and turn on your oven and set it for, say, 200 degrees. And after a few minutes, when it's preheated, open it up and you can stick your arm in there. You actually can stick your arm in a 200-degree oven. It'll be warm, but you're not going to burn off the
Right.
hair on your arm or anything like that.
Right.
Now, touch the side of the oven. When you get back from the hospital, you'll understand. You'll understand that 200-degree air, convection airflow, is a lot different than 200-degree conduction energy, because the side of that oven is still 200 degrees, just like the air, but it's metal and it conducts the energy more differently. So now you've got an understanding of it. Once you understand those different types of energy, then you can control temperature. And cooking's all about temperature control.
We're talking with Meathead. I feel like I should call you Professor Meathead. You're so full of all this knowledge and really clarifying what makes things
I've learned a lot. And in fact, Professor Greg Blonder at Boston University is my mentor. Professor Blonder has taught me so much. He first visited my website, AmazingRibs.com, which is the biggest, baddest barbecue website. He first visited maybe 15 years ago, and we started a conversation, and he has been by my side, at my back, whenever I have a technical question. Yeah, I have a great deal of interest in the sciences and some knowledge.
Yeah.
But this guy is really great, and he's right there in Boston.
Most of us don't think about it that way, right? Most people that are thinking about, let's fire up the grill, they're not thinking about the science behind it. So there really is a lot going on. Let's talk about some of the recipes in this book, because, boy, you got some great stuff in here. Can you share a couple with us?
Well, yeah. I mean, my last book, which was just titled Meathead, The Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling, and it's the same idea here. The first book and the second book, the first half of the book is text. It's all about the science and the methodologies. This book is more about method, technique. Mm-hmm. Since I'd covered in the first book the regular barbecue canon, steaks and hamburgers and lamb chops and ribs and brisket and chicken, I got all that in the first book. This book, I decided I would. What's going on now in the barbecue world is really interesting, and the future of barbecue is going to be very different than the past. And that's because international flavors are seeking their way in. Most classic American barbecue is barbecue that was developed in the United States, often by enslaved people in the South. Today, we see a lot of innovation being brought into it by Asians, Spanish, Italian, French, Mexicans. I was recently in Texas and ate barbecue at a place where the husband is a Texan, but she's from Ethiopia. And she's brought Ethiopian flavors to their barbecue, and it's marvelous. There's a place in Atlanta where he is Georgian and she's Korean. And she's brought Korean flavors into this restaurant, and it's marvelous. And there's a lot of that going on out there now, and it's bringing some great flavors and crazy innovation. A lot of fun. I tried to bring some of that into this book, where, we've got new methods. You like Asian food, Chinese food?
Absolutely.
Who doesn't? If you've ever tried cooking it on your stovetop, you can make really good, but it's just not as good as the neighborhood Chinese restaurant. And there's a reason why. If you've ever gone into a Chinese restaurant kitchen and watched them cook, they use a wok, first of all, and it's on top of what looks like a volcano. It's massive amounts of gas heat coming up, so much so that the wok often glows. Well, you can't get that on your stovetop.
Right.
But you know what? I was out in my yard one day starting my charcoal grill, and I use a device called a charcoal chimney. It looks like a coffee can, and you stick newspaper in the bottom and charcoal in the top, and it helps you get the charcoal started without pouring gasoline all over the charcoal and stinking up the neighborhood. I hate that smell. And I look at my charcoal chimney, and there's a blue flame coming out of there. It looks like the back end of an F-35. So I run inside and get my wok, and an infrared thermometer. It looks like a gun, and you point it at something. I mean,
Right.
it's 1,000 degrees. The next day, I set this up on purpose, and I do a Chinese stir fry. And so that recipe is a stir fry beef and rice, but it's amazing. You can get the Chinese restaurant flavor, even wok hei, which is the classic wok aromas and such, because you get this incredible, intense F-35 flavor. So if you want to cook Asian food and you want to do it right on a wok, you do it on your charcoal chimney on a grill. From now on, wok cooking is outdoor grilling. And that's in this book. And the whole technique, there's a couple of tricks that I didn't have time to get into but it really is fantastic.
Yeah,
Here's another one.
The variety is amazing what you have in here.
You like fried chicken?
Yes,
You don't cook it at home anymore, do you?
I don't.
What? And I know why. Because it spatters all over the stovetop, all over the counter, gets on the floor, stinks up the kitchen for days, sets off the smoke alarms, but it's fantastic. Well, cook it on your gas grill.
I said, how are you doing it?
You go out back, you get a big Dutch oven, heavy, gallon or two capacity, put it out an inch or two of, about 2 inches of oil in the bottom. Turn the burner on underneath, leave the other burners off, get that oil up to 350, 375. That's the sweet spot for almost all deep frying, 350 to 375. And then you dredge your chicken the way, whatever way you want, buttermilk, flour, eggs, corn chips, whatever, and in the hot oil. Well, who cares if it smokes in the backyard? Who cares if it spatters? Who cares if it smells? It's not setting off any smoke alarms. And when the chicken is beautiful and golden, you pluck it out of there and you set it on the other side of the grill where the burners are off, indirect, and just close the lid and it'll stay warm until you're done cooking all the chicken.
Sounds pretty
And
easy.
while it's there, it drip dries. Cooking fried chicken is a grilling recipe. Well, what I do is I love food. And wherever I go, every restaurant I eat in, every recipe I read in a magazine, I say to myself, can I cook this better on the grill? And almost always the answer is yes, because just about anything you cook indoors, you can cook outdoors only better.
So do you have a favorite meat that you do like to cook on the grill?
Do you have a favorite child? That's the. I will confess, my website's named AmazingRibs.com, and that's because of my unending love of ribs and all the variations. So I think if I had to say, but I'm a big steak guy. And since I've learned how to cook great burgers, I used to skip burgers because I just said it's just a waste of fat and I don't need that. I know how to cook burgers now, and I teach people how to cook burgers.
So tell me how. What is the best way to cook a burger?
Well, there's different kinds of burgers, and once I came to figure that out, there's the quarter pounder diner burger, there's the 6-ounce pub burger, and the 8-ounce steakhouse burger. And they all require a different system and a different technique. Part of that is because the secret to great cooking is thickness of the food. It takes energy or heat, time to penetrate food. And it penetrates them at different rates. I mean, it goes through fish fairly quickly, and it takes beef or burger a little longer. But an 8-ounce thick burger that's 4 inches wide to fit on a regular burger bun is going to be thicker than a 4-ounce burger, which is 4 inches wide. So you cook them differently. The 4-ounce burger, the diner burger, is really best cooked on a flat top on a griddle, the smash burger. And that's because it's so thin that you really have to cook it long enough to get the interior cooked to a safe temperature. And by the time you do, the interior is going to be gray. It's almost impossible to get it out of there pink and still have a great crust. But so what you do with those burgers is that you focus on the crust. And the crust is, I mentioned it before, a Maillard reaction. It's a chemical reaction where the heat changes the proteins and the amino acids, turns them brown, makes it crispy, and that's a really great flavor. So on a flat top, on a griddle, or even a frying pan, you want to smash the burger so it's in intimate contact with the hot surface, and you want that surface around 350 to 400. And you've got to leave it there and don't touch it until it gets good dark brown. And then you flip it and do the other side. Now you've got a great smash burger. And smash burger, you smash it, you press it down hard with a spatula so it's really contacting the surface. Now, the pub burger, the 6-ounce burger, it's thick enough that it sits on a bun perfectly. So for that, I think you're best off grilling it over flame, over infrared. And you let the infrared turn the surface brown. And also you can add some smoke flavor. So now you've got a more complex, interesting surface. And for that, you flip frequently. You don't just leave it there like you would the 4-ounce burger. You flip frequently. When you flip frequently, the underside cooks and it's getting a lot of energy. The top side is giving away that energy. It bleeds off into the atmosphere. So you can flip frequently. You can get a great dark crust surface and still have pink in the center. Now, you want to watch your temperatures. The USDA says 155. Research shows that you go down as low as 145 to 150 and still be safe if you keep it there for 30 seconds or so. Now, for the steakhouse burger, the 8-ounce burger, the big mouthful of burger, absolutely, you must flip it frequently. Here's a trick. Every cookbook tells you never to smash a burger with your spatula. Instead of your typical burger blend is 80-20. That is, it's 80% lean muscle and 20% fat. And that makes it very juicy. For the steakhouse burger, you want 75-25 or even 70-30. More fat. And that's because I want you to put that down on the grill, right over the flame, and smash it gently with your spatula so that the fat and the juices drip out. They hit the fire and they vaporize and they come back up and contact the meat and flavor it. And so if you do it with 80-20, your burger is going to be tough and dry. But if you up it to 70-30, you can afford to lose 10% of those juices and fats and still come away with a tender, juicy, and it's going to be extra flavor from smashing. So that old shibboleth, never smash your burger, breaks down in this case.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
What about some other interesting flavors? What else would you use on whether it's steak or ribs or burgers or whatever else you're cooking, chicken?
Well, the book has a whole chapter on sauces and spice blends, or we call them rubs often.
Yeah.
And you can make your own barbecue sauce. It's not difficult. It's easy. And there's a variety of barbecue sauces in this world. The Kansas City style is red. It's ketchup or tomato based. There's the Alabama style, which is white, and it's mayonnaise and sour cream based.
Oh my goodness, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's really good. They dip chicken in it. They dunk chicken in it. Invented by a cook in the 20s, I think, in Decatur, Alabama, and it really is great for chicken. There's the mustard sauce, which is really popular in the Carolinas, and it's great on pulled pork. So I have recipes for all of these, and then the rubs, the spice blends for beef, for pork, and poultry, and so on. They're all in there. But there's also, again, methodology is an underlying theme here, the Meathead Method.
Right.
I introduce people to sous vide Q, I call it. It's sous vide combined with barbecue. Now, by now, most of your readers probably know what sous vide is, but let me a 30-second summary.
Okay.
If you throw a hamburger, for example, in a frying pan or in the oven or on a grill, that grill or oven or pan are going to be much hotter than the target temperature of 150 or so. So the temperature goes up, 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 and if you're not careful, you overcook. You got to get it off right at the precise moment. Well, sous vide is this technique where you can put the hamburger or a steak in a Ziploc bag and slide it into a bucket of water and let the water squeeze the air out of the bag, and then you put a heating element. It's called an immersion circulator. It looks like a big old fat flashlight, and it sits in the water and heats it so that a medium rare steak is when it is at its most tender and most juicy, 130 to 135, medium rare, and not a penny more, not a penny less. And if you want great, perfect steak, that's your target temp. And if you're throwing it on the grill, it's tricky because you've got to get it off in that little window. Otherwise, it gets overcooked, and now you've got an expensive piece of steak, and you're apologizing to your guests.
Yes.
And that's embarrassing. And if you take it off too late, it'll continue to cook from the heat built up in, it's called carryover residue. Now, if you put it in this tub of water, which is heated to precisely 132 degrees, it will warm the meat to 132 degrees, and it can't go any higher because that's the temperature of the environment it's in. And you can leave it there for hours. So you can get your meat in there long before the company shows up for dinner. It's already at the right temperature. It's fantastic. It's tender. It's juicy. It's really a juicy technique. It's got one problem. When you take it out of that plastic bag, it is butt ugly. It is just gray on the exterior, and it hasn't had any of the searing, the Maillard reaction. So what a lot of people will do is they'll take it out of the bag and throw it in a hot frying pan and get the sear on the surface, which is full of flavor, or on the grill.
Yeah,
Or,
I would think that you'd want to make it look a little bit more appetizing.
absolutely, yeah. So a hot frying pan or grill or smoker will get you there. So by combining sous vide with the grill or the smoker, what I call sous vide Q, you get incredibly tender and juicy and flavorful meat. So it's a great technique to experiment with.
So, we're talking with Meathead about the brand new book, The Meathead Method. So, have you found different? How does your method differ from other methods, maybe around the country? You have Texas, you have Kansas City, you have all the South. I mean, is there anything you can share with us in that regard?
Well, for some of these things, I'm kind of inventive. I think I invented the concept of grilling on top of a charcoal chimney with a wok, or
Yeah.
you can sear that sous vide steak, which is but ugly, on top of a charcoal chimney. Just put a grate up there, and boom, boom, it's done searing
It's
in
done.
like 3
Yeah.
minutes. Fantastic. I do fajita steaks on there because they're really skinny, and it's really hard to get them both brown on the surface and pink in the center unless you've got intense heat. So I do that on top of a charcoal. So I've innovated a lot of these techniques, but nothing is new under the sun. I'm sure that some of them others people have experimented with. But when you start talking about Texas, you're talking about a regional style that is imbued with tradition,
Sure.
that people have been doing for decades, centuries, and there's so much to be said for the great classic Texas brisket. There's a couple of dozen places down there that you just weakens your knees to taste their food. So I don't. In fact, I have a lot of those recipes. In fact, since the first book covered the classics, brisket and ribs and chicken and such, this book I've done the brisket and ribs, but I've used the recipes that the top competition cooks use. So the brisket recipe is real similar to what the guys who go out and win 10 grand on a weekend for their briskets. So you can do a brisket, the classic standard way in my first book, or you can amp it up to 11 with the technique in this book. It's a little of both.
Well, I think
You
it's
know,
great because you're developing your own method, and that's the key here.
well, there's a word that absolutely drives me up the wall, and that is the authentic. People, I once did a caprese salad recipe that had capers in it. Oh my God, did I hear about it from the social media? It's not a real caprese. What the hell? Oh my God. You know, these people who dwell on authenticity, it's called the culinary arts. And that's because it's an art. And art has always thrived on creativity. And, that's the beauty of so much of what's going on in our culinary world.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the art world has always had movements. You have the impressionists and the fauvists and the modern. In the culinary world, the movement that is in right now is what I call the nerdist movement. And I'm a nerdist. And Christopher Kimball of Milk Street up there in Boston is a nerdist. And so are the folks over at Cooks Illustrated and Alton Brown. Alton Brown wrote the foreword to this book.
Right.
He called it the only book on outdoor cookery you'll ever need. I mean, how cool is that?
And it really is. It really is. And that's what's so cool about what you're doing. It's like, your spin. You're putting your own spin on it.
Well, I mean, that's what a cookbook should be. It should be a reflection of the author.
Exactly. Now, tell us how we find you on social media.
I'm on all of them. Frankly, lately, I've been dialing back how much time I spend on them. I'm easiest. If you have a question, if you post your question, AmazingRibs.com has 2,000 free pages.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, recipes, technique, method, myth busting, all that stuff is on AmazingRibs.com. And we also have a membership portion called the Pitmaster Club, which is really cool. We've got 15,000 paid members.
Oh my gosh! Tell us about that.
Well, it's a community. A lot of them know each other by name. They get together sometimes. They have what they call meetups. Everybody, let's get together in Austin, or they get together at somebody's backyard. They swap recipes. They talk about their favorite grills. They share the names of restaurants that they're fond of. It's a real community. Anybody who wants to can check it out for 30 days for free. We don't ask for a credit card, so we're not going to, force you to be a member.
Right.
Come down and try it. It's really nice. It's really cool. Evidence is 88% renew every year, and in the subscription or membership world, if you do 50% renewal, you're doing good. 60% is excellent. 70% is unreal. And 80% you're lying. We have 88% renewal.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Wow.
They love it.
Well, it is really a pleasure to talk with you. I could talk, we could talk for a long time. I don't have as much time that I'd like, but we're talking with Meathead about the brand new book, The Meathead Method. I really appreciate your time today, Meathead.
Well, I appreciate your time. It's always fun to talk to somebody who knows food. And I'm real proud of this book, and I hope your readers will take a look at it.
Well, there's a lot to go through, and there's a lot to learn. It's pretty fascinating. And I'll tell you what, as I was going through it, I happened to stumble on your bread area. The Grand Marnier garlic bread, man, I can't wait to try that out.
That happened by mistake. I was doing shrimp with Grand Marnier, which is a really good combination. I'm sure it's not original, but I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
And I had the leftover Grand Marnier, and I figured, well, shrimp will have some garlic bread to go with it. And I started painting the bread with the Grand Marnier and some butter, and holy cow, it's really good.
It sounds exciting. I can't wait to try it amongst some of these other great ideas in here, too. So keep up the good work. And definitely, I'd love to chat with you again sometime. There's so much to learn from you. I mean, it's like we can't do it in one sitting. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
My publicist may book me into you're in Boston, right?
Yeah, in the Boston area. Yeah.
I may show up on your doorstep.
Well, that's great. Carrie, I don't know. Carrie, I deal with Carrie, and that's who obviously
Yes,
booked our interview, and she's great.
that's it. Yeah,
So,
she's the best.
yeah. So let me know if you're ever in the Boston area and if you do more books or whatever else is going on, because it's always fun to talk food.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Enjoy your day, and thanks again for your time.
You too, and thank you for your time.
Okay. See ya.
Bye bye.